Hey everyone, Dr. Frunke here with a review and final diagnosis on the Spyderco Myrtle. This is a really interesting knife that I think a lot of people avoided, and a lot of people were interested to know whether or not this thing was worth it, especially now that it's been discontinued. This knife was originally offered at somewhere around $215. But now you can get it for about $140 if you go to Blade HQ. I picked this up right when they discontinued the knife at about $160, and I thought it was a pretty good deal for what you're getting. An S30V satin finish blade, a titanium frame lock with washers, titanium bolster, and a marble carbon fiber handle. So all these pieces on paper seemed like it would be an interesting knife. Now, I think that a lot of you expressed, especially after my unboxing video, that there were various reasons for why you didn't buy the knife, and we're going to discuss that. So let's go ahead and look at this knife objectively and see what we've got. I'll bring out the ruler. You've got 3.5 inches of cutting length, a 3.75 inch blade, 8.75 inches in overall length. You're looking at a 5-inch handle. The grip area, if you include the back of the knife, is 4.5 inches. If you exclude it, it's 3.75 inches. The overall width of the knife here, let's make sure we're zeroed, is coming in right at 0.491, so just under half an inch, and the blade stock is 154 thousandths right there. So it's got a nice thick blade stock that we're going to actually compare to his cousin, the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. This will be our first size comparison, is the blade stock. So the PM2 is no slouch in blade stock, and here comes the Myrtle with that huge honkin' blade. Speaking of the size, the Myrtle is actually bigger overall than the PM2. So if the PM2 is too big for your carry purposes, then the Myrtle is going to be way too big for you. I didn't think it was going to be quite that big, but it is. It's a nice size for me, but it may be too large for most folks. Here's the Manix 2, a little bit smaller than both of those knives. Here is a Benchmade Anthem. This is a relatively common knife right here that maybe a lot of you have experienced. And how about we bring out a little knife right here, a Chris Reeves Knives Small Inkosi. So a couple of reviews for you guys to look forward to and a couple of common knives to compare right there. Let's break this knife down anatomically. Up front is that S30V blade done in that double recurve hawkbill sort of blade shape. I really enjoy it. I think it's beautiful. I always knew that that was going to be a useful blade, and it actually is. In reality, recurves are some of the best blades for everyday cutting needs. They're a bit of a pain to resharpen and stuff like that, but if you know how to sharpen one of those, and all Spydercos are easily sharpenable on the Sharp Maker, that's the point, and the Sharp Maker works well with recurves, that if you know how to sharpen it, it's not really such a problem. And functionally, this blade is pretty cool. It has two recurve areas. So there's one at the heel of the blade here. So when you're doing heavy cutting, like if you're breaking down a box, that recurve pulls the cardboard right into the edge and it cuts it so nicely. The full flat ground blade right here actually functions super well. I'll give you a measurement here just behind the edge. You're looking at about 0.24. So it's not the thinnest in the world, but it is fairly thin. For a comparison, the sliciest blade out there right here, the PM2, by my measurements, oh my goodness, is coming in somewhere like 0.22. So it's actually pretty similar, just a hair thicker than the PM2 right behind the edge right there. So a very good slicer, especially with a hyper edge like what Spade has put on it. Another thing that works really well here, the other recurve actually gives you an ability to do some finer cutting tasks. Just like the big recurve draws things into the blade, so does the small. If you want to do some finer cutting tasks, which is something that I need to do in the healthcare field, if I need to get up near a patient's skin, this flat right here on this blade allows me to put that safely against the skin, and then the recurve allows you to kind of get something out. So you can cut wristbands off, you can get gowns off or clothing off if you need to, and it works very nicely like that. If you need to cut rope, if you need to cut paper, if you need to open a package, all of these recurves on here actually function very nicely for everyday cutting tasks. If you sharpen out the edge right here, it actually makes it look a little bit nicer. Nathan did kind of remove what was a very funny looking, more of a recurve at the tip there. To be honest, I think this makes the knife look a little bit more handsome, taking that bit off. So if you're adept with a good sharpening system, you can take that right out. It is openable with the large Spidey hole. You can thumb flick it open. In true Tai Chung fashion, they left the hole quite sharp around the edges, but actually that's necessary because the action is not particularly smooth. It runs on phosphor bronze washers, but it's not going to be anything like your Chris Reeve knife. It's not going to be anything like your PM2. The PM2 is one of the smoothest knives out there. I've got mine running a little bit stiff, but it still does this kind of stuff back and forth. This one, you can flip it open, but it's really, even with the lock disengaged, it's not going to really be that smooth. And I've got it tuned up and centered. I've got it just loose enough, like the loosest it can be with no blade play. And that's about how smooth it's going to get. And maybe it'll break in to be a little bit more, but that's just something you need to be aware of. It's not the smoothest knife in the entire world. Moving back to the handle, probably the most compelling part of the knife. It has a beautiful front side here with this piece of marbled carbon fiber. I will say I'm a bit disappointed. The carbon fiber has some inconsistencies in the polish. I'm going to try to catch the light in a bunch of different angles and see if you notice the differences in these sort of areas that are polished, and then up here it's not so polished. There are some inconsistencies. Now, if I had some fine grit sandpaper, I could probably just do that for a couple of seconds. I might take the scale off, but do that for a couple of seconds and have it shined up like that. I haven't done that myself, but I just wanted to show you the status that it comes to you from the factory. Now, something else that people have complained about a little bit are the multitude of screws on here. There are 5 screws on the front of the knife here, and some people think that kind of ruins the overall look. If you just respect that they went to the effort of actually designing the screw placement, I think it makes it a little bit better. Instead of just having a bunch of screws placed wherever there is, it does follow the curvature of the handle. They've kept a consistent space in between each one of these, and so it flows with the design. It's not the best solution in the world, but it's okay. Leaving these things plain and satin like they are actually makes this knife look better, I think, since I gave it some color. This has a bolster up here. There is absolutely no border between the carbon fiber and the titanium. They did do a very good job with the tolerances there. I'll bring it up close so you can see. There's really no gaps going on there. Even down the handle here, it's all very well done. It has a G10 backspacer, titanium liner, and of course the titanium frame lock side. A very nice titanium frame lock, no lock bar insert, and there's no over travel stop, but the clip functions as your over travel, and so that's okay. There is a hair of lock stick, but not enough to really matter, and I'm sure if I just gave it some pencil for a couple more weeks, it would probably completely go away. That is not so bad. I think that some people have complained that it didn't have an insert, they didn't like the screws, and they didn't like the clip. The clip is a bit unusual. I do kind of wish that they had just gone with a regular Spyderco clip. They went for a more custom-like design right here, and I think honestly that was a misstep. If they had left the traditional 3-hole pattern and allowed people to do things like put deep carry clips on this knife, I think it would have been a bit more popular as well. Or if they had just left this as a normal-looking clip, that was another hindrance, I think, for a lot of people. So how does this thing carry? Actually, that clip functions quite well. It works just like a regular Spyderco clip. It just looks a little bit different. So it's very easy to carry. The weight is not all that bad. I'll bring out the scale here and we'll get a formal weight on it. It's 5.0 ounces, so it's got that solid feeling, but it's not overly heavy to carry. The ergonomics are excellent. I actually have enjoyed it. It fits my larger hand quite well. The lock bar does travel in there, so some people that are real nitpickers get a little bit annoyed by this gap, but to be perfectly honest, it's not uncomfortable in the hand. The clip does not poke me anywhere. There are no hot spots, and this part up here is definitely smooth. Like I said, the blade cuts beautifully, and I really enjoyed that. But with all of these strange things going on this knife, the final diagnosis is going to be terminally weird. It was just a little bit too weird for everybody, and so Spyderco ended up discontinuing the knife. Well, tell me what you guys think of the knife down below. Congratulations to Jay Engel, who just won this in the giveaway. Go ahead and click like and subscribe to my channel here. Follow me on Instagram, and as always, guys, take care.